Hi, my name is Ken Asselson. I wrote the Microbiome description website, and this is a quick video because of a lot of interest in a new feature which came from a refactoring of existing stuff. And particularly there was interest in the aspect of dealing with mast cell things. So I have up on screen a person who has mast cell issues, not major, but significant, and does react quite a bit. So the thing is, here's the latest sample. Underneath symptoms, you go in, you can enter symptoms, but you want to do symptoms associated. And system associated comes from people annotating their samples with the symptoms they have. So if you're interested in improving what I'm going to show you, please upload these samples or get a sample and add in your symptoms so that we can better make discoveries. And a lot of it is using, how should I say, not quite proprietary, but close to proprietary statistical AI methods. And it has been turning out some wonderful things, actually far better than my first attempt using conventional things. But okay, let's shut up and get to it. So we have a list of 207 different symptoms. So I'm just going to focus in on mast cell, and what we do is we see that mast cell, we have 37 and 6 here, and what I'm going to do quickly is flip over and go back to the site. The right side, and up at the top what we have is look up bacteria here, bacteria associated with symptoms, and type in the word mask, and okay, I know what's going on. Actually, not quite. Okay, so we see mast cell issue. We have 268 observations. So it's 268 people who have done uploads indicated they had mast cells, from which we managed to magically obtain 102 bacteria. If you just click here, you'll see all the bacteria. You can sort it by what genus, by what class, what family are responsible. And then we have odds. And odds, things which are big numbers, or indicate things which have a lot of impact. A lot of things only increases your risk of having mast cell by a little bit. But if you have 40 little bits, it can become a major problem. So that is the population-wide example with the data there. And giving the odds, so odds are positive or negative. Negative is what I did instead of the classic number between 0 and 1. I inverted and put a negative sign so that most people will understand it actually easier than the technically correct way. So let's go back here. And we don't have 101, we have 37. And why do we suddenly have a lot less bacteria than everyone? For some reason. The only thing we are matching on is the bacteria which are reported on labs. Different labs report different bacteria. Not every lab, not every sample will have every possible bacteria. There's 14,000 different bacteria. Most of the labs report on 400 to 800. So there's a lot of missing items there, which won't get reported, which means we assume generally 0. But let's go on. So we have two sets of samples here. One with just 6, and that's official diagnosis, which would be a more strict definition, and people who basically are self-diagnosed or however else you care to do it. They believe they have mast cell issues by experiments or whatever. So we click here, 37, and we get 37 different bacteria. And all I need to do is click that, and what happens is, voila, we have listed all the bacteria with check boxes which are in the wrong direction. So in this particular case, we can see all of the things, and what we do notice is that there's a bunch of things here all of which are associated with mast cell, and we can just go in and click them. Usually what I do is although I do almost for curiosity's sake, I do column level, and it does come in, but it's not that particularly great impact, considering that that is a huge chunk of the microbiome, and trying to adjust that is usually not productive. So what we do here is we have, oops, there we go, we have generally species and families, sorry, species and genesis. Occasionally we have families showing up. In this case we don't. I'll just add to handpicked bacteria. It takes us back to sample page, and if we go back to where I was, we will see handpicked bacteria sitting there, and we can go and view the handpicked bacteria, and there we have 14 which we had selected. So it's sitting there, gives you your values, percentile ranking, etc. Doesn't tell you whether or not you're too high or too low, but generally if it's a high over 50%, you're probably too high. Below 50%, it's too low. So here we have the bacteria in summary which we just selected. So we go back to our samples, go to the bottom, and now we have handpicked bacteria here, and we can go and get suggestions. We're over here and we have the suggestions. We already have picked, we don't need to do anything more. I'll just check a couple more things just out of curiosity, and then we'll go and see suggestions. I'm going to actually increase that to 40 and 40 just out of curiosity, and let's see what we get for suggestions. And there we get suggestions. We actually get a small number of avoids and a large number of takes. So number 1 is slippery elm, number 2 is truffula, number 3 is licorice. For this specific person, remember, each person's microbiome is unique and is different. Red meat, epinephrine, etc. That is only prescription drugs. So majority of the recommendations do not deal with prescription things. It deals with things you can buy in a health food store or whatever, exercise. But most of those items are there. We do have a few avoidance. Dietary fiber, high fiber diet are things which you don't want. They will actually encourage the bacteria which appears to be connected with the mast cell issues. Inulin, verbene, fistin. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a shock saying, wait a minute, I was told that this is healthy for you. It is for the general person. But once the microbiome has shifted over into a mast cell issue for some people, again, it depends on which bacteria are causing it, then it's not so healthy. So that's basically it. As a quick FYI, if you have multiple symptoms you are wanting to do, you can go back and I'll just do a quick walkthrough. I'm going to do the same persons down at the bottom and select symptoms, symptoms associated. And what I'm going to do is type in sleep. And let's take a look. There we have a few here. Let's see if anything has a high number. We have erratic sleep, so let's go for erratic sleep. We'll click over here. Again, click here, and now we have the bacteria which are going to be associated with that characteristic. And we have the numbers. Most of them are between 1 and 2. In other words, they are small contributors, not big contributors. But we can go in. Oh, here is one, but that one is, again, the column level, which usually I skip, but it indicates having less of it will probably improve your sleep quality. Again, we can just go in and check all of them. Okay, and there everything is at the species or genus level, which is the best thing to do it. Again, click here, go back. I should mention you want to be careful here, because if you set this to the wrong level as public, the handpicked bacteria will not show up below. It's not a first level, it's a second and third level feature. So now we go back here, and we can go back to handpicked bacteria, and we can go ahead and view. And now we have 28 entries. So we have much more bacteria there. We can go back. Remember, we're combining two conditions together, and there's no limit to the numbers you can do. The suggestions will be different, or could be different. In some cases, they are not. Handpick suggestions. Let's just leave things as they were from last time and click. And guess what? Tossing in the sleep issue once and almost doubling the bacteria selected. Guess what? We don't have a major change in the suggestions, which is a good one. And 27 bacteria, we have the same thing. Avoidance of diet in there. Aspartame to avoid, a particular probiotic to avoid, and down the bottom you could go and see which ones are there. Notice that in general, probiotics are likely to have higher negative value than a positive value. And we can look at mixed impact, and nobody stands out. So we have a few suggestions for it, and you can go over and take a look at what's in there. Or basically the thing I noticed mainly is Lactobacillus rhamnosus is sitting there, and then a couple other things. But basically the main suggestions are very, very similar to the last one. So having mast cells, having erratic sleep, although different bacteria were identified, the suggestions coming from the two of them happens to correspond, which is to me a good sign that, okay, those are two symptoms of the same style of dysfunction, and we can identify the parts, and even though the parts seem to be independent, the correction of them is very similar. Okay, that's it. Time for bed.